Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of A Meta Trends with Mark and Mike. Mike, again, is politicking, so I don't believe he's going to be able to join us here today. Maybe he'll pop in a little bit later on. But we have the how do I set you up, Michael? You know what I call you when you're not around?
Tell
I,
me, please.
I call you the king of the court, and the rest of us are just players.
Oh,
So,
man.
if I understand it correctly, you're the only person to have won Speaker of the Year for Vistage multiple times, and I believe you've won it 4 times. So, what I'd ask you to do is just back up a little and let a little room for the rest of us, okay? So, but I want to thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, it's time to me to hit the ball and hit it right out of the park. That's because I'm on a call with you, my dear friend Mark. Hey, you. First of all, I did win Speaker of the Year 4 times, but then people like you complained and said, whoa, other people need to win it. So then they didn't give it to me anymore, and they gave me 2 members choice awards 2 different years. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, the members voted you the best speaker. And I said, well, why isn't that Speaker of the Year? And they said, shut up. Then they gave me the Millennium Award. And I said, what's this? And they said, well, because you're the best speaker. And I said, well, why aren't I Speaker of the Year? Shut up. Then they gave me Above and Beyond and Lifetime Achievement Award. And now they just give us little titles every year. Yeah, Mark, I'm so freaking competitive. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it with my whole heart and soul and all out. And yeah, I want to win. I admit I want to win. Always, though, by treating people with respect and dignity and not stampeding over them. And you're one of the people that always treated me with respect and dignity. And that's why I'm here today, because of your excellence.
Well, I saw you speak. The first time I saw you speak was probably around 12, maybe 13 years ago, and you presented to my Vistage group when I was a chair. And then I think I saw you a second time after that, and we've been kind of bumping elbows on this career path that we're both on. And what I like to do is I look at the speakers. I don't want them downstairs mentally ever. So what I want to do is I want them kicking so much ass their foot hurts. So what I do is I'll typically give them my cell phone number with carte blanche to call me if they're downstairs mentally, because what they're doing is noble, necessary work, and doing fulfilling work is rarely fulfilling. So it can knock it down a lot, especially on the platforms that we're on, because sometimes the people listen with their arms folded like this, that type of thing. They hate speakers. Some are like, I think you're evil because you're not voting for the same person I'm voting for. Really stupid shit. But it's the minority. And frankly, the chairs do a pretty damn good job of keeping mentalities like that out of the room because it silences truth. It silences sincerity. I don't know that it silences truth. It silences sincerity. And I saw you do some masterful moves, like some Jedi mind trick on one of my members. You probably don't remember this, but one of my members disagreed with you about something, started coming at you really hard, and you went like this. You tried twice, and then you gave him the Heisman Trophy move. You went like this and said, you turned to the rest of the room and said, okay, I've attempted to coach him twice and he's resistant. Now it's not on me. I'm just a guest here. Now it's on you guys. That he thinks this behavior is helping his cause when it's actually hurting his cause. So, but we got to move on. You moved on. And I don't know if you remember this. He penned an open letter of apology to you, the Vistage group, and even CC'd his wife. He ended up doing a men's experiential weekend at my behest afterwards, and it transformed his leadership. But since I saw you do that, I've never lost a group ever since. So it was like learning at the feet of the master. So it was really powerful stuff.
And see, that's your special sauce. Your what you do that's so beautiful, Mark, is that you combine a huge amount of confidence with a huge amount of humility. And what your member was doing is he had it in his heart, but his humility was actually so deep. His insecurities were so deep. He overshadowed that with what looked like arrogance, and it really was deep low self-esteem. And so I at some point I had to decide, Michael, you're not Jesus. You can't save every lamb here today. And what you're doing isn't saving him. It's not working. So if you truly want to save him, you got to find another tactic. So I tried that tactic. That tactic could have failed too. And in this case, because he was so wonderful underneath, he rose to the occasion. It was there. And see, that's what you do especially well. People get confused, Mark, and they think confidence and humility should be compartmentalized. That now I'm going to be confident, now I'm going to be humble. No, no, no. You have to live on the 50-yard line of those two things your whole life. And when you do, people get inspired, people follow you, people want to listen to your message. But in every moment, there needs to be some confidence and humility. Look what you just did. Ton of swagger leading this podcast. No question you're in charge. No question you know what you're doing. Articulate, no filler words. You look good. You sound good. And then you call me the master and you support it with an anecdote. And then you say you learned from it. You just did a master class on how to do both confidence and humility at the same point. And so that's one of many things that we want to teach every day.
Well, so that's one of the things I find is there's a famous quote from a famous chair named Ozzy Gontang. Are you familiar with him?
I love them.
Yeah. So picture for those of you who I haven't spoken to or you haven't witnessed this, Ozzy was a chair for multiple decades, and he was a former monk, and he claimed that being a chair was the most spiritually rewarding work he ever did, and the most difficult. Which I have to agree on multiple levels there. I don't know if I ever told you this, Michael, but I talked two of my members out of suicide in the financial crisis.
No, you didn't
That
tell us. No.
dude, that sucked. Like, you remember Bob Duncan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bob was for those of you who are privy to the conversation. Bob was the best practice chair of New York, and he called me up one time and he goes, "Hey, have you been up against this?" And it was something like that. So it was something like that. And I said, "Well, Bob, I talked two of my members out of suicide." He goes, "Oh, so you know?" I'm like, "Dude, where were you for like 4 years ago? You could have warned me I'm doing this?" So, but the idea is that where was I going with that now?
About Ozzy.
Oh yeah, thank you. So Ozzy once said, I heard about it like vicariously through Norma Rosenberg. He said that people join Vistage to grow their business. What they get out of it is personal growth, and then their business grows.
Correct.
Now, I do believe that statement, but I did have to take umbrage with it a little bit. He's actually going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks, and frankly, to his credit, he still has a growth mindset. So, and I told him, I got to take umbrage with that quote, and he said, I felt him lean in on the phone call, and he said, "Tell me more." I said, "Well, it's been my experience that our members join Vistage in order to grow their business, but then they spend an inordinate amount of their time trying to look good in front of each other. And that's not a growth mindset. That's hiding out. So how do we bring that out into the light as a disinfectant and get them to not hide out in accountability? Like it's almost like people joining gyms, but then not going, or people joining gyms and then not working out the right way. And then they blame the gym. So the idea here is like, okay, don't assign responsibility of accountability 100% to the chair, because you can lord your membership over them. They can only push you so far. Just like the people surrounding you when your signatures on the front of their paycheck, they can only tell you so much truth. They can't tell you that's a stupid idea, like your other stupid ideas. They can't tell you your breath smells when it does. They can't tell you what the back of your head looks like. And what we need is a space that's a crucible of truth, so that we can have our dumb ideas exposed as dumb ideas. Because I don't know if you feel this way. I'm an idea guy. So I get all these ideas and they feel brilliant to me in the moment. And maybe 2% of them are worth pursuing.
Yes, sir. What is that noise? It sounds like you have lawnmowers in your office.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you say such good things. Like I would just want to sit here and take notes. How to bring that out in the light using disinfectant as a metaphor. Here's the thing, Mark. Right now, and it's the post-COVID world we're living in, I believe, that what I'm finding foremost is that people are feeling unseen and unheard. And a lot of that behavior is so that people can be seen and heard, so that people can be noticed. People may not be able to articulate that, but that's what's going on. And so I don't know if your experience matches this, Mark. When I was coaching groups during COVID, I'd often watch a leader that have 20 people on the screen, all with their name on it, and never call a single person by name. People would come and go from the screen. People would have lawn mowing sounds. People's cat would be on their head. People's little toddler would crawl into their lap and look into the camera. Nothing. Crickets. There'd be no acknowledgement. And so people started to feel invisible. And what I'm finding is that people have brought that back, and that sense of invisibility is really pretty dominant right now. And so some people respond to that in positive ways, other in negative ways. And so it's like children in the classroom. I spent the first 10 years of my career as a high school drama teacher. And the first 6 of those were grades 7, 8, and 9. I'm thinking especially of grade 7 boys often would find ways to get my attention that were not positive. And I don't think I don't think I wasn't as good then as I am now. I needed to earn credits with them and make sure I noticed them in a positive way before I noticed them in any negative way.
You know what's great about that is like you get this unbelievable way of tapping into the humanity of the people, and like what I guess one of the things I'm frustrated with these days is that I'm a seeker of truth, so I don't just look for making myself right. I find objective truth, like even in
Mm.
things that are really rough to hear about, because frankly, economists are all about poking holes in people's beautiful lies, so we're kind of assholes. So it's like, and I walk in a room and I'm like, although I'm a extrovert, I'm disagreeable. I'm perfectly willing to tell you that you're wrong. And here's the reason why. Typically, how I'll do it is I'll say, the data doesn't support your claim, assuming it doesn't. And then I'll say, okay, these are the books you want to read. These are the PhDs you want to put on your radar screen. And the way I do it is I don't just read their books. I will read them up to 7 times and I will rewrite them up to 5 times each, longhand and pen, because I want the data really intimate to me. However, it's like I'm a walking turd in a punch bowl. I walk in the room and I start telling people the truth, and man, they do not want to hear it. So, and your way, like you've got this like Jedi mind tricks that you work on people, where it's like these are not the droids you're looking for, and it's truly masterful. So, and yet the people at the end of the day, and I'm curious about this from your perspective. When I first met you, you did this thing where you shook my hand, you stepped into my personal space, like your nose almost touched my nose, and I was like, "What?" Like people don't do that, right? You have this curveball approach that you were from left field, and especially in a button-down environment like a Vistage meeting where people are all trying to look good and they're all, they're not drama oriented, they don't understand that world at all, and then you're able to kind of get them to recognize all the lessons you're teaching through all their favorite movies, which everybody can relate to. So it's really something to see. So I'm quite impressed. But even just that little note that you just said about people feel unseen and unheard, I think it also has to do with this. That
Yeah.
I think the social media has a way of giving platforms to people that don't deserve them, and the people that actually I would argue deserve the platforms don't get them, because it's
Yeah.
only the wacky extreme points of view scale online. The reasonable ones don't. So we're kind of hearing the wrong things. You get what I mean?
Yeah. And everything bad is good and everything good is bad. What I look at is think of the good of what you just said is that people are on social media are trying to find what their singular voice is, how they can pop. And for me, the way you describe me leaning into you and taking over your space, I've never been afraid of singing a different song from somebody else. And the beauty, I learned so much when I taught grade 7, 8, and 9 to go back to that beginning because I love those kids more than anyone on God's earth. Their parents would say, how come this kid likes you? I can't even get them to talk to me. I got invited, Mark, to more dinners those first few years of teaching than the whole rest of my life put together by 14-year-old kids, boys and girls, who said, I want Mr. ALLOSSO to come to my house. And the parents were stultified that their kids liked an adult, if you wanted to call me that. And we all have to find our signature brand My least favorite thing about those kids is, and what I worked on was they were blenders. They wanted to wear the same clothes other kids wore, talk the same language, don't say hi to me in the mall. That's embarrassing. And the problem with that is that's antithetical to leadership. Leaders pop. We don't blend, we pop. We got to find our own music. And the beauty of theater, of course, was I could create plays where they could play a character, work with people they've never worked with in a school that was factionalized. And so they could pop, they could find new music and find what their signature was going to be. Don't you think I learned so much from that to apply next to professional theater, professional film? And then now to CEOs, C-suite executives, people are afraid to pop. They want to blend. And the people who pop are more exceptional. My job, your job, is to get them to pop in a positive way.
Mm.
And so you're a seeker of light, a seeker of truth. And I love that. I'm a seeker of beauty. So why I think God put me on the earth was to be a beauty gatherer.
Mm.
So what I do every day, Mark, is I go out in the world and I gather beauty. I report the beauty that I see. And when you report the beauty that you see, then you're able to do what you so excellently said that you did. Tell the people why they're wrong. And it was interesting, Mark, because you translated that to head and data. And you said, the reason why I do that, Michael, is because I'm a data guy and I have the data to prove it. Well, CBS wouldn't have let you on their last debate because they didn't want any data, first of all. Second of all, what what I listened to was I was thinking what a big heart you had when you did that. I wasn't thinking of data. I was thinking, oh my gosh, Mark is proving how he truly loves the people he coaches because he's not afraid to tell them where they need to get better. If you love somebody, you don't placate them and say, oh, aren't you doing well? You're so good. Oh, try harder. You're always doing none of that. You do what you do. You say, no, this does not work. You are wrong because to me, that's a big heart that you're gathering beauty. Now, to get people to listen to that, you need to identify what they're excellent at first.
Mm.
And that's why the beauty gathering works for me. Is I go out in the world, I tell people what I see that's beautiful. And usually, Mark, what that allows me to do is tell them in the same way that I'm gathering the beauty where they could be more beautiful. That if they did this, if they added this, did they think about how this was perceived? Always, though, from a place of gathering beauty, always a place from building, never destroying.
Yeah, I ran into a tough one. You and I talked about it offline. I ran into a tough one in Boston where the chair, she had asked me to help them because they were really dealing with some really tough political ideology. And frankly, Boston, the closer you get to the center of Boston, the more politically arrogant it really is. So
We love being politically arrogant. Yes.
yes. So picture, believe it or not, the chairs in Boston have to prove to me I'm not walking into a firing squad because that's what it was, right? So and I don't help them do it, by the way. So so picture, I was outlining something called that we've outlined on this show, the Cartman drama triangle. And it's that you have like an upside down triangle. You familiar with it? All right. So you
Yeah.
got the triangle, you got victim at the bottom, you got villain, and you got rescuer. And as I was doing it, two of the members spun their chairs around, folded their arms, and huffed after everything I was saying. And one of them was running a $600 million company, pharmaceutical company. I'm like, damn, I wouldn't want to work there. So it was like, what it was is it was running afoul of their political convictions of making victims right. Where what we really want to do is be able to look at things through a lens of personal responsibility. Like I've created all the horse shit in my life. So if I have that attitude, well, then I can fix it all because I created it. So what it is, it's almost like taking your power back from something you've been giving it to, claiming victim to it, and making it impossible to solve it, which is almost like a hobby. Because I have noticed that there's a host of people, not a ton, but a host of people that are so problem oriented, they actually grade themselves socially based on the qualities and quantities of their problems. So if you solve them, they go find more. So, and I don't see them as solution, and I'm concerned about who my CEOs are hiring. And the reason why is because the university system has created an environment where being a victim is actually a good thing. They need to celebrate their victimhood, and it's almost like a victimology Olympics. Who's the most victim? So the dilemma with that is now there might be nothing, and why should I care? The other aspect though is if you hiring people who are convinced they're victims of oppression, they come into the business world. The easiest thing to confuse is struggle with oppression, and businesses just struggle. So it's like who's going to get sued? So how do you make sure that that doesn't happen where it ruins the mission of the business? Because here's the thing, I think you see it from a different angle. So I'd like your opinion on this. I believe that through commerce, we're capable of what religion hopes to accomplish and what politicians fail at, which is taking care of large scale communities. Like to sit back and say that America is a terrible place or any of these things about that, it's like it showcases a profound ignorance of both history and statistical literacy. It means they've never been anywhere else, and they're likely in a ideological monoculture, and that concerns me because I do not see the political world as a left-right dichotomy. I see it as a horseshoe of authoritarianism, and I'm anti-authoritarianism. So, but it's a slippery slope because it's the natural state of mankind. So, what I do is I deluge my audiences with evolutionary theory about why we evolved to be so predictable and boring. And then that enables us to be able to predict the future more accurately. But I'm curious from your perspective, are you running into any of that? Or are you just so good at the Tai Chi stuff that you're able to squash it in the crib?
So, Steve,
Yeah.
first of all, I love our country so much. I defy anyone to show me a country that's better than we. What I will say is, I was in Iceland last year, and what I noticed in Iceland, Mark, is there was a higher level of community
Mm.
than we are presently doing here in the US. So, where we might be stepping backwards a little bit is that I'm hearing a lot me, my individual rights, me. And those individual rights sometimes are counter to what is good for the welfare of the community. And that's what I'm trying to call out when I see, so that we can genuinely love one another and respect the community, which people give lip service. They even have it in their core values of their company. But then what I see is me. It was refreshing to be in Iceland. And maybe Iceland is just this fictitious place because it's amalgam of a lot of the Scandinavian countries. And those countries tend to be more humanistic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I would like to go live in Iceland. I'm very happy right here. I love our country, as I say. But I am seeing that. And here's the thing, what you said about the victim of the triangle, that I don't know why there's any resistance to what you say. Why is victimization attractive? Why would anyone be attracted to the notion of being a victim? And what I work with CEOs is in the casting. And I've made that mistake as a casting director, directing a play, directing victims.
Mm.
Once you direct a victim, you can't get anywhere. And so you can't cast victims.
Mm.
And what I encourage CEOs to do is to extricate victims from their workforce, because I want to hear solutions. I don't want to hear victimization.
Mm.
I want someone to come to me in the one-on-one with solutions rather than the, oh, woe is me. And I think the way you synergize that with the political climate right now, we are hearing political candidates play the victim, and it is getting a popularity for some reason. That one I can't figure out, Marco.
Well,
Why?
there's even a thing too that everyone in the United States, every person, no matter what income level they have, would be in the top 1% of all earners worldwide.
Yeah.
All of it. So it's kind of like, is it? I think it comes back to this: if something is pernicious and persistent, there's typically an evolutionary benefit to it. So I think what happens is victim mentality as a child, or maybe in our ancestral past, enabled us to live long enough to procreate, but then it becomes the very thing that's standing in the way of the future growth of that leader. So it's literally the thing that's standing in your way. It's the, you don't steer around it. You got to go through it like a storm. And I can't say it's fun. There were days that were kind of dark for me and go through mine. But once I came out the other side of it, it's the world's been my oyster ever since. So I don't feel disempowered. There's certain things I don't like. There's certain things I wish were better. But the deal is that I see life for what it is because I feel empowered by that. You know what
It's
I
so
mean?
good. What you do is you turn obstacles into opportunities. it's so in theater, it's so black and white. You think theater's all touchy feely. It is so black and white and data based. So we call it objective tactics obstacles. So you have a strong objective in the scene. My objective in the scene is to make Mark a better podcaster. Then I have tactics, and we say a minimum of 3 tactics. So I give him feedback about his excellence. I tell him where he might do better. I show up and gesture with my hands. We make jokes. We have fun. We respect the schedule. All those are tactics to make you a better podcaster. The third category, though, is obstacles. What prevents me from getting Mark to be a better podcaster? And the categories are threefold. Everything falls into 3. 1, your problems, your resistance, you hate me, you hate theater people, you hate people from Boston, you have a stomach ache. 2, your audience, okay? So that, so you're my audience, excuse me. Number 1, you, my audience. Number 2, me, what are my problems? So what are my problems today? Do I have a stomach ache? Do I hate podcasts? Do I have a personal, this is actually true, do I have a personal situation this week that's causing me grief? All those things are, a problematic obstacle for me to be successful today. And then the third category is environment. Does Noah the Navigator mess up on our audio, on our video? Is all of a sudden, are there lawnmowers outside your window? Are there people banging on mine? Those are external obstacles. So what weaker leaders do and what weaker actors do is they play the obstacle instead of playing the objective. Do you follow that, Mark?
I think so. So why don't you elaborate on that just a little bit more?
All right, so go 2008. You and I were coaching, people dealing with that. So construction CEOs would say to me something like this: Michael, I just laid off 3 people today. You're telling me tomorrow I have to go in all Michael ALLOSSO happy and upbeat? How is that authentic? With that tone, all right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you know the tone. So I take a chill pill. I take a Noah the Navigator chill pill, and I say to the CEO, I say, look, is your objective tomorrow, your authentic objective tomorrow, to make the people left standing mourn the people you just laid off? No. Is your authentic objective tomorrow to make the people left standing nervous that they're the next ones you're going to fire? No. Or is your authentic objective tomorrow to make the people left standing do the same amount of work they've always done, if not more, for the same amount of money, if not less, so that you can get your company out of this mess and start putting food on people's tables? Yeah, that's the authentic human being I want you to bring to the workplace tomorrow. That's what authenticity is. Don't play the authentic obstacle, play the authentic objective. Think theater, Mark. I've just cast you in a play, and you and Mike and Noah are in the scene, and it's the first scene, and you pick up the script, and it says, Mark approaches Noah and Mike drunk. So you get up and go, oh, and I go, ugh, Mark, what are you doing? That's so fake. And you say, well, Michael, it says in my script that I'm drunk. Mark, when you're drunk, what usually is your objective? What are you usually trying to get people to think?
Something happy, like
that you're not drunk.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Drunk is playing the obstacle. You can't play adjectives. And what victims do is they play adjectives. I'm oppressed. I'm unliked. I'm not. It's not fair. Play the verb. Play your action. Don't play the obstacle. Because when you play the obstacle, it's actually less authentic. If I play all my problems today, they're authentic problems. But then I lose the authentic event that I chose to do this podcast with you to make something extraordinary happen. Don't play the obstacle, play the objective. Make more sense?
Yeah, it does. That's helpful to me because, I can be quite off-putting. I lose people, especially the younger they are, I'm more likely to lose them because I seem like some old dude that's like lecturing them or something like that. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is kind of get them to be more statistically literate, go to the right sources, stop listening to the news, stop listening to politicians, seek truth, and then be able to go kick so much ass their foot hurts. That's what I want.
I love it.
Yeah.
The only thing you left out is to be a beauty gatherer. So you've
Yeah.
got what I find Gen Z appreciates two things. One, that the discussion we just had, they love the path. Tell me, Michael, what is the path to get the gold ring? Because I want to do everything on the path to get the gold ring. Write it out for me. Tell me what I need to do, and then you better give me the gold ring. So that's fine. That's clinical. That's head. The TSP. Do you remember my thing, TSP? Do you remember this thing? I carry this with me everywhere I go. This thing that Peggy made. So what's TSP with a period after it, Mark, in a recipe?
Oh, tablespoon?
Oh, I'm never
Teaspoon?
eating at your house.
No, no,
Teaspoon.
you never want to.
Right, teaspoon. So it's the way you give feedback to people. Now, time out, Mark. Feedback's a compound word. What's the first word in feedback?
Trust?
Feed.
Oh,
Feedback.
okay.
It's about nurturing and feeding. So the T is truth, your favorite thing. The S is specificity, my favorite thing. And the P is positivity, which is Gen Z's favorite thing.
Hmm.
So I believe that feedback needs to be truthful, specific, and positive. And when you do that, people achieve great results. And what many leaders do that you don't, it's another thing why I love you, is they leave out the S. And say these letters without the S, Mark. Say them out loud.
TP?
And what do you use TP for? Get my point?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what I see many leaders do that they think Gen Z wants is, oh, you're so good. It's really wonderful. Great job, everybody. Well, certainly that's positive, and maybe it's truthful, but no S. And like, I love that you call it data because people want to say that theory of mine is touchy feely. I don't. It's data. It's what you said. It's a collection of data. It's like being a private detective. I meet Noah. I meet Noah Horak, who's your navigator, and immediately I want to see what he does well, and I identify it. I list it. It's data based. I present it to him, and now the relationship begins. And now maybe he's ready for me to tell him what I need him to do better.
Okay, so I think what we should do is let everybody know we're going to move the rest of this podcast for the entrepreneurs. Going to move it to the platform, the Private Middle Market Forum. So now what we want to do is kind of get in around what a Vistage member is up against and stuff. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about you.